Since the earliest days of your life, something in you was different. It wasn't loud or obvious, it was quiet, like a secret whisper between your soul and heaven. While others ran freely through the noise of childhood, you often found yourself still, watching, feeling. The way the wind moved through the trees spoke to you. The pattern of sunlight breaking through the clouds carried messages you couldn't yet translate but somehow understood deep inside. Even then, heaven was speaking, and your young heart was listening. There was always a sense that you were being guided, even before you had words for it. You weren't merely a child who liked solitude. You were being trained in silence. While other children sought company, you sought meaning. You felt the emotions of others before they spoke a word, sensing the sadness behind smiles and the weariness behind laughter. And though you didn't understand it, this deep sensitivity was not a weakness. It was the first sign of your divine wiring. God had placed in you the ability to feel the unseen. You may remember how, as a child, your imagination felt alive, yet it wasn't imagination at all. The gentle nudge that told you to stay home instead of following friends one day, the inner whisper that made you turn away from danger before it appeared, those were not coincidences. Those were divine interventions. Angels watched over you long before you even knew their names. You were never just a child wandering through the world. You were being escorted by unseen guardians, guided by hands that shaped your destiny. When you looked at the world, you didn't just see, you perceived. You noticed the sadness in your parents' eyes, even when they smiled, or the unspoken tension in a room when no one else could. And while other children could walk away unaffected, you carried those energies home in your small heart, wondering why the pain of others hurt, as if it were your own. You were already carrying the first fragments of your calling, to heal, to understand, to feel beyond yourself. It wasn't random, it was spiritual preparation. Even in the simplest moments, sitting near running water, staring at the movement of clouds, you weren't just daydreaming. You were in communion with something higher. You didn't know it then, but God was training your attention. Every whisper of wind, every flicker of light across your face was part of the divine language of your early years. You were being taught how to listen, to the earth, to heaven, to the quiet space between both. And yet, this difference often felt heavy. There were moments when you questioned why you didn't fit in, why your laughter didn't sound as carefree, why crowds drained you, why you sought depth where others sought distraction. But even that sense of separation was sacred. It was heaven's way of keeping you from blending in, so that one day you would stand out, not in ego, but in light. You were never meant to fit into the noise. You were meant to carry peace into it. As you grew older, your sensitivity began to feel both a blessing and a burden. You could sense when something was wrong before anyone else could see it. Sometimes you even felt danger before it came. There might have been a time you narrowly escaped harm, a sudden urge to take another path, a last-minute change of plan that saved you. Later you called it coincidence, but in truth, it was divine protection. God was already moving pieces around you to preserve your purpose. There were nights you couldn't sleep, not because of fear, but because your mind was alive with unseen impressions. You wondered why you could feel the sadness of the world so vividly, or why prayers seemed to rise naturally from your lips, even when you didn't yet understand faith. The truth is, heaven had already claimed you. Before you knew how to call His name, God had already written yours in His plan. Many who walk the path of the chosen ones share this early knowing, a strange blend of peace and longing. Peace because they feel a connection to something bigger. Longing because they can't yet explain it. You were probably drawn to stories of miracles, angels, or the unseen realms long before adulthood. Something in you remembered. You didn't need to be told that the spiritual world was real. You felt it. Animals seemed to know it too. Perhaps a dog would always find calmness near you, or a bird would linger longer than usual. Even nature recognized your frequency. The Creator's creatures are drawn to those who carry His light, and they sensed it in you even before you did. It's easy to dismiss these memories as imagination, but you know in your heart they were real. When danger was near, there was always an invisible shield. When fear came, an unexplainable calmness followed. When you cried alone, comfort rose like warmth from within. That was God's Spirit embracing you. You were never abandoned. You were being observed, guarded, and guided. And though your childhood may not have been easy, every moment carried divine design. The loneliness that once felt like rejection was actually a spiritual cocoon. You weren't being excluded, you were being prepared. Each quiet hour spent in wonder was heaven teaching you how to hear, how to discern, how to walk by intuition instead of sight. Even the pain was part of your making. As you look back now, you can see that your story never began with ordinary beginnings. Every subtle sign, every dream, every near miss, every deep feeling was proof that God had chosen you early. The journey of the chosen ones always begins this way, quietly, mysteriously, through whispers that only the soul can hear. The world may not have noticed, but heaven did. And from that first breath, the hand of God rested on your life. You were not simply born, you were sent. As the world around you shifted and adolescence arrived, the quiet whispers of your childhood began to grow louder. The things that once felt like soft nudges now echoed like thunder inside your heart. You began to sense that there was something deeper at work within you, something that separated you from the noise of your generation. While others seemed content chasing temporary thrills or blending into crowds, you found yourself searching for meaning, for truth, for a voice that would explain the unseen world that had always been pulsing behind the veil of ordinary life. But this awakening did not come without pain. The more you became aware, the more misunderstood you felt. The laughter of friends sometimes sounded hollow, and the things that seemed to excite others no longer moved you. You noticed how easily people accepted shallow realities, how quickly they forgot what mattered. And deep down, you knew you were being called to something different, something sacred, something that couldn't be explained with logic or words. Many nights you may have found yourself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling as if your heart was reaching for a place it couldn't see. That ache, that emptiness, wasn't depression or confusion. It was your soul stretching toward heaven, yearning for the divine source it came from. You didn't realize it, but those restless nights were moments of holy alignment. Angels watched over you as you wrestled with questions your peers never thought to ask. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do I feel so much? This was your first encounter with spiritual loneliness, not because you were truly alone, but because few could understand the language of your soul. The world around you encouraged conformity, yet your spirit craved authenticity. And when you tried to explain your feelings, people brushed them aside, telling you to stop overthinking. But they couldn't understand that what you were feeling wasn't overthinking, it was awakening. You were beginning to see through the illusions of the world, recognizing the emptiness behind appearances. During these years, your intuition began to sharpen. Sometimes you knew what others were feeling before they spoke. Other times you sensed events before they unfolded. It might have startled you. That sudden knowing that someone was about to call, that a friend was in trouble, that something was about to change. But none of it was coincidence. Heaven was slowly teaching you the art of discernment, tuning your senses to the rhythm of divine communication. Perhaps you remember dreams that felt too real to be dreams. Faces of people you hadn't met yet, places you'd never been, moments that later unfolded in waking life exactly as you'd seen them. These weren't fantasies, they were glimpses through the veil. Prophetic flashes meant to remind you that your soul lived in more than one realm. The spiritual world was calling, and you were listening. Yet with awakening often comes warfare. The more your light began to emerge, the more darkness tried to confuse and silence you. Emotional chaos, inner battles, and feelings of unworthiness rose to the surface. You may have questioned your sanity, wondering if something was wrong with you, but no, it wasn't that you were broken. You were being refined. Like gold in the fire, your soul was being purified through the heat of your teenage trials. You might have faced rejection, betrayal, or ridicule, friends turning away because you were too different, too intense, too deep. It hurt, but what you didn't see then was that every person who walked away was being removed by divine design. God was protecting your destiny from energies that could not walk with you into the next phase. You were being isolated, yes, but that isolation was sanctification. It's in this loneliness that many chosen ones first learn to hear the true voice of God. Because when the noise fades, when no one else's opinion matters, the Spirit speaks. You began to realize that some of the thoughts that came during your quietest moments weren't yours at all. They were messages, encouragement, guidance, sometimes correction, but always wrapped in love. During these years, life may have tested you through unusual emotional intensity. The smallest disappointment could cut deep, and the pain of others could feel unbearable. You were being taught compassion, not through lessons in a book, but through experience. You were being given the ability to feel deeply, so that later, when your mission unfolded, you could guide and comfort others not from theory, but from understanding. And though you often felt unseen, you were being closely watched, not by the world, but by heaven. Every tear you cried became part of your preparation. Every sleepless night, every silent prayer, every question without an answer was molding your heart into one that could carry divine wisdom. You didn't know it, but your angels were already recording every step, ensuring that not one moment of your pain would be wasted. Somewhere in those teenage years, you probably began to sense that you were being set apart. There was a pull inside you to separate from the chaos of the world, to spend time alone, to journal, to pray, to reflect. You may have even felt guilty for withdrawing, not realizing that God Himself was calling you into His quiet chamber. It wasn't rejection, it was preparation. Heaven often hides its chosen in stillness before revealing them to the world. The intensity of those years was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to build your foundation. Your doubts taught you to seek truth. Your loneliness taught you to listen. Your pain became the soil where empathy could take root. And through it all, you were learning the most important lesson of all: how to walk by faith, not by sight. Every chosen one goes through this silent initiation, the period when you feel like no one understands you, when your path doesn't resemble anyone else's. That is how God separates His warriors from the crowd. He trains them in secrecy, teaches them in silence, and strengthens them through solitude. You weren't just surviving adolescence, you were awakening. The storms that raged inside you were not signs of destruction, but signs of power being born. Each emotional wave that threatened to drown you was actually cleansing your spirit, washing away illusions so that truth could rise. And when you felt most alone, heaven was closest. Jesus Himself was beside you, though you didn't yet know His voice. When you sat in your room crying, He was there, whispering through your thoughts. You are mine. You are not lost. You are being prepared. You didn't choose this path. It chose you. You were being shaped for something greater than your teenage mind could comprehend. Every unanswered question, every misunderstood feeling, every quiet moment in which you thought you were forgotten was actually a thread in the divine tapestry of your awakening. Your loneliness was never punishment. It was the beginning of recognition, the realization that your soul was never meant to follow the crowd because it was chosen to lead the lost. There comes a time in every chosen one's journey when the light that once guided you seems to vanish. When the divine whispers go silent, the peace you once carried feels distant, and every step forward feels like walking through shadow. This is the moment the soul enters what many call the dark night. It is not punishment, it is purification. It is when God begins to strip away everything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming. You may remember this season clearly, that moment when the things that once gave you comfort suddenly stopped working. Relationships began to crumble, friendships drifted away, opportunities fell through your hands like sand. You prayed, but heaven seemed quiet. You searched for meaning and found only confusion. You asked, God, where are you? But the silence grew louder. You were being drawn into a sacred breaking, the place where everything false within you dies, and everything true begins to emerge. At first, you might have believed you were cursed. The people you once trusted turned cold. Some betrayed you, others abandoned you right when you needed them most. The ones you thought would stand beside you disappeared without a trace. It was as though the universe itself was rejecting you. But in truth, it was God's mercy in disguise. For those who could not handle your light were being removed before your next season began. You see, when the divine hand rests upon your life, not everyone can remain close. The vibration of your calling begins to shift your atmosphere. What was once compatible becomes heavy. What was once comfortable becomes confining. You were outgrowing environments, mindsets, and even people. This pruning hurt, but it was necessary. God was preparing to elevate you, and elevation requires separation. There were nights when you broke down in tears, asking why the same cycles of loss and struggle kept repeating. You wondered why life seemed to hit harder for you than for others. While others seemed to move easily from success to success, your path was filled with roadblocks, delays, and unexpected detours. You tried to keep faith, but even that became exhausting. You questioned your purpose, your sanity, your worth. And yet, this was the exact moment heaven was doing its deepest work. When the surface of your life looked like ruin, your roots were growing stronger. Every unanswered prayer was secretly shaping your spiritual maturity. Every betrayal was teaching you discernment. Every closed door was redirecting your steps toward divine alignment. You didn't know it then, but your suffering was sacred, the soil of your transformation. The dark night is where the chosen ones are refined into warriors. It is the wilderness before the promised land, the fire before the anointing, the silence before the voice. And though it feels like everything has been taken from you, it is in that emptiness that the presence of God becomes real. Because when you have nothing left to hold on to, you finally learn that He is enough. There were moments when you felt like screaming, moments when even breathing felt heavy. You cried out for help, but no one came. And then slowly, something began to shift. Not in the world around you, but within you. In the midst of the chaos, you found a small flame of peace that refused to die. It was faint, but steady. That flame was the Spirit of God dwelling within you, refusing to let you go. You began to understand that even pain carries purpose. The heartbreaks that once shattered you began to reveal hidden strength. The rejection that once humiliated you began to feel like protection. You saw how what you lost was never meant to stay. The more you released, the lighter you became. This was your soul learning the sacred law of surrender, the recognition that you were never in control but always in divine care. In this dark season, God wasn't being silent to punish you. He was teaching you how to trust without evidence, to walk by faith when sight failed you, to keep moving when logic told you to stop. You were learning to rely not on signs or emotions, but on the still, quiet knowing that you were not forsaken. You may recall how certain nights felt endless, like the darkness would never lift. Yet even in your most painful moments, heaven was orchestrating miracles behind the scenes. The delay was divine timing. The isolation was divine protection. The confusion was divine redirection. God wasn't ignoring you. He was rebuilding you. Every loss was a tool, every tear a key, every disappointment a door to something higher. And in that process, something inside you began to awaken, not just faith, but identity. You began to see that the strength you were looking for was already within you, that your spirit had never been broken, only hidden beneath layers of fear and illusion. You realized that your connection to God was not dependent on circumstance, but eternal, a thread that no darkness could sever. This was when your spiritual eyes began to open. You started to see how nothing in your life had been random. The people who hurt you were teachers. The heartbreaks were awakenings. The delays were divine detours. Even the betrayals carried hidden blessings. What once felt like punishment was actually preparation. The dark night revealed the truth, that your worth was never measured by the world's approval, but by the divine purpose written on your soul. You began to understand that what you were losing externally, you were gaining internally. Wisdom, resilience, clarity, and unshakable faith. You were being stripped down to your essence so that when God rebuilt you, no storm could ever shake you again. And though the night seemed endless, dawn was already forming beyond your sight. You couldn't see it yet, but heaven was already declaring your restoration. Angels were already moving on your behalf. The tests were almost over. The old version of you, fearful, doubtful, people-pleasing, was dying, making space for your rebirth. Because after the dark night comes the rising, and you were being prepared to rise not as the wounded, but as the awakened. After the long silence of the dark night, something inside you began to shift. Not suddenly, but quietly, like dawn breaking after a long and merciless storm. You began to feel life returning to your spirit, light returning to your eyes. The same pain that once weighed you down was now fuel for your becoming. You realized you hadn't been destroyed. You had been reborn. The person you once were, the version shaped by fear, doubt, and need for validation, no longer existed. In its place stood someone new, someone forged by divine fire, someone who had seen God in the wilderness and lived to tell about it. You started to notice subtle miracles. Doors that had long been closed began to open without your effort. People who had walked away were replaced by those who understood your energy, your frequency, your truth. The world looked the same, but you were different. Your perception had changed. You no longer saw from the eyes of fear, but from the eyes of faith. You began to understand that nothing outside you had to change for your world to transform. The change was within. Your connection with the divine became intimate. No longer did you search for signs, you became one. Your spirit spoke in harmony with the universe. Synchronicities appeared daily. Numbers, dreams, symbols, perfect timing. You realized heaven was not a distant realm, but a constant presence within and around you. You began to walk with a peace that didn't depend on circumstances. You had met the Spirit of God in your pain, and now His presence lived through you. There were moments when you would pause, overwhelmed by gratitude, realizing that what once broke you had actually awakened you. You could now look back at the betrayals and see blessings hidden beneath them. You could remember the loneliness and recognize it as training for divine companionship. Every wound had become a window, every scar a story of survival and faith. Your intuition became sharper. You no longer questioned it. When something felt wrong, you trusted that knowing. When your spirit said go, you moved. When it said stay, you waited. You learned that God speaks through peace, and when your heart was still, the answers came effortlessly. You stopped chasing outcomes and started flowing with divine timing. Life became less about striving and more about alignment. You began to embody your divine identity, not through arrogance, but through quiet authority, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything because it knows. You understood that being chosen doesn't mean being above others. It means being responsible for light. You were called to heal, to serve, to awaken others by simply being the truth that you are. You didn't need models, stages, or applause. Your energy itself began to transform the spaces you entered, and people could feel it. Some couldn't explain it, but your presence stirred something in them: conviction, inspiration, remembrance. Others felt uncomfortable because your light reflected the shadows they still carried, but you no longer took it personally. You understood that light doesn't fight darkness, it simply shines, and in doing so, reveals truth. During this phase, divine downloads began to flow more frequently. You would receive ideas, visions, or messages out of nowhere. You started to sense that you were part of something bigger, a collective rising of souls waking up to their divine assignments. You realized that your journey was never just about you. It was about every person your light would touch, every heart your words would awaken. You were no longer just a survivor. You had become a vessel. The rebirth of the chosen one always comes with power, but it's not the kind the world recognizes. It's quiet, holy power. The power to forgive those who hurt you without needing an apology. The power to bless those who curse you. The power to remain at peace when everything around you shakes. That power is the mark of divine maturity. You have been tested in the fire and proven unbreakable. You began to see your trials differently. You understood that the darkness didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal you. You realized that every spiritual battle was evidence of your significance in the kingdom of light. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat. Every season of warfare was confirmation that you carried something precious, something heaven ordained. And now you were learning to guard it with discernment. As your spirit rose, so did your awareness of your mission. You began to feel a deep responsibility to use your experiences to help others. Maybe through your voice, your art, your compassion, or simply your presence. You knew that those who once felt unseen, unheard, unloved, needed to know what you now knew. That pain is not the end, that darkness can be divine, that the fall is not failure, but the start of flight. In this new phase, you felt lighter. You laughed again, not the forced laughter of pretending, but the genuine joy that flows from freedom. You began to enjoy your own company, to love yourself without conditions. You stopped begging for closure because you realized peace was never given by others. It was chosen. You stopped waiting for validation because you remembered that the same God who chose you had already approved you. The same world that once felt like a battlefield now felt like sacred ground. You began to see divine fingerprints everywhere. In every sunrise, every stranger's smile, every coincidence too perfect to ignore. You no longer prayed from desperation, but from communion. Your prayers became conversations, your silence became worship. You didn't just know about God anymore, you knew Him because you had met Him in your ashes. And through it all, your energy began to shift. You could feel when something aligned or didn't. Toxic people, old patterns, and empty pursuits began to fall away naturally, not through force, but through frequency. You no longer resonated with chaos because peace had become your home. You were no longer trying to find light. You were carrying it. The old you, the one who sought approval, who feared rejection, who doubted divine timing, was gone. In their place stood the awakened you, grounded, radiant, and unshakable. You had learned to live not from reaction, but revelation. You had discovered that your greatest strength was never in fighting the darkness, but in remembering that you are light. You no longer prayed for an easier life. You prayed for stronger faith. And heaven responded not with comfort, but with clarity. Clarity of purpose, clarity of identity, clarity of truth. This is the rising of the chosen one, when the divine spark within you burns so brightly that it cannot be hidden anymore. The darkness bows. The past loses its grip. The world begins to respond to your frequency. And deep inside, you know, this is only the beginning. When the light within you rises, the world around you begins to rearrange. You start to notice that what once interested you no longer matters. And what once seemed small now calls to your spirit with divine urgency. This is how the mission begins, not through grand announcements or outward signs, but through a quiet inner pull that refuses to be ignored. It is the voice of destiny whispering, "Now is the time." At first, this awakening feels subtle, an inner stirring, a knowing that you are meant to do something more, something sacred, but soon it becomes undeniable. The same spirit that walked with you through darkness now begins to move through you. Your words begin to carry weight. Your presence begins to shift atmospheres. Strangers are drawn to you without knowing why. This is not coincidence. It is calling. Every chosen one reaches this threshold, the moment when divine preparation turns into divine action. You have been refined in pain, trained in silence, and molded through trials. Now, heaven begins to reveal why. The very experiences that once broke you now become the foundation of your purpose. The pain that nearly destroyed you becomes the language through which you heal others. You realize that nothing was wasted. Not a single tear, not a single night of despair. Every moment was a lesson written in the ink of divine design. You begin to see the world differently. The same problems that once overwhelmed you now look like invitations. Where others see chaos, you see potential. Where others see defeat, you see divine alignment. Because you've learned that behind every storm is strategy. Behind every obstacle, opportunity. You carry a spiritual sight that cuts through illusion, and that discernment becomes your greatest gift. The mission begins not by force, but by flow. You don't need to chase it, it begins to chase you. Doors open, conversations align, resources appear, divine connections form. It's as if heaven itself begins to conspire on your behalf, orchestrating every detail. That's because the universe recognizes the vibration of obedience. When you step fully into who God created you to be, creation itself begins to assist you. But stepping into purpose doesn't mean comfort. The warfare continues, it just changes form. The enemy can no longer attack you through confusion, so he tries distraction. He can't stop you with fear, so he tempts you with imitation. This is the season when discernment becomes vital. Not every opportunity is divine. Not every voice that praises you is from God. You'll need to guard your peace as fiercely as you once guarded your faith. Because now your light is visible, and with visibility comes both favor and opposition. The people around you begin to shift again. Some will be inspired by your transformation and drawn to your energy. Others will be threatened by it and distance themselves. You'll notice how certain environments feel too small for your spirit, how certain conversations no longer nourish your soul. This is heaven's way of repositioning you for greater influence. You cannot rise while staying in rooms where your wings are clipped. Your mission will not always look like a platform or a pulpit. For some, it's art that heals. For others, it's words that awaken. For many, it's simply presence, walking into spaces carrying peace so strong that it changes the atmosphere without a word. God's chosen often serve silently, but their impact echoes loudly. Purpose is not about recognition, it's about alignment. You begin to notice divine timing everywhere. The right message appears when you need it. The right person crosses your path at the perfect moment. You realize that nothing is coincidence. Your life has become a living prophecy, a manifestation of heaven's plan unfolding in real time. Every decision guided by intuition leads to another step of divine revelation. In this stage, your relationship with God deepens beyond faith into partnership. You stop asking for signs because you've become sensitive to His flow. You no longer beg for answers. You listen. And when He says move, you move. When He says wait, you trust. Your obedience becomes your offering. Your peace becomes your protection. The more you walk in purpose, the more you notice that the old you, the one who needed approval, who doubted, who feared lack, no longer fits into your current vibration. You are evolving. You are remembering that your assignment is not to fit into the world, but to transform it. You are here to bring heaven's order into earthly spaces, to speak truth where there is deception, to bring healing where there is pain, to remind others of the divine spark they've forgotten. And yes, there will be resistance. There will be seasons when your mission feels heavy, when the weight of responsibility presses on your spirit. There will be moments when the very people you're sent to help misunderstand you. But you'll remember, the mission was never about approval. It was about obedience. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be light. Every chosen soul must carry this understanding. Your life is the message. You don't have to convince anyone of your purpose. You embody it. The way you forgive, the way you love, the way you stand in faith when others fall in fear, that is your ministry. That is your evidence. And as you continue walking in divine purpose, heaven begins to entrust you with more. Your words reach further, your influence multiplies, but through it all, your heart remains humble because you know what it cost to carry this light. You remember the wilderness, you remember the silence, you remember the nights you thought you wouldn't survive. That remembrance keeps you grounded, even as you rise. Now the fire in you is not just for yourself, it is for the world. You are a carrier of divine truth, a messenger of the unseen, a vessel for love that cannot be extinguished. You are living proof that resurrection is real, not just for Christ, but for every soul willing to surrender, to break, to rise again. Your mission is not something you do. It's something you are. It breathes through your words, your choices, your energy. Wherever you go, heaven follows. Wherever you stand, light shines. You are no longer running from your purpose. You are walking in it. You are no longer asking, why me? You are saying, send me. And as you continue this sacred walk, the world will see what God has always seen. Soul who survived the fire, who carries his glory, who was chosen not for comfort but for impact. You are now walking in divine purpose, not perfectly but powerfully. Every step is guided, every word is weighed, every moment holy. At this stage of your awakening, something magnificent begins to happen. The energy that once felt fragile, uncertain, or flickering like a candle in the wind now burns as a steady flame. You no longer search for proof of your calling. You have become the proof. The battles that once terrified you no longer hold power, for you've seen what stands behind them. Divine orchestration, shaping your destiny through the very trials that once threatened to destroy you. You now understand that being chosen is not a title of superiority, but a covenant of service. The power you carry is not to be flaunted, but to illuminate. You've returned to the place where humility and divinity merge, where your strength is anchored not in control, but in surrender. You realize now that your greatest victories were never about conquering the world, but mastering yourself. The light within you has matured. It no longer flickers in reaction to external storms because you've learned that peace is not the absence of chaos. It's the awareness of God in the midst of it. You've walked through fire and found that it could not consume you because it was never meant to. The fire was your initiation, your divine baptism. It burned away illusion, pride, fear, and every false identity that once kept you small. Now, when people look into your eyes, they see something ancient, a wisdom that doesn't come from books or words, but from endurance, from having seen both heaven and hell and choosing light every time. You have become a living message, a reminder that even broken things can glow. The return of power is not about domination or status. It is about embodiment. You are now aligned with your higher nature, moving not from reaction, but from revelation. You've learned that divine power flows through stillness, through compassion, through authenticity. You no longer force outcomes because you've come to trust divine timing. What is meant for you cannot be stolen, delayed, or destroyed. In this new vibration, you begin to attract experiences that mirror your higher self. Opportunities align almost effortlessly because your frequency now matches what heaven has always had in store for you. You no longer chase, you magnetize. The universe recognizes your signature. You are no longer seeking the light. You are the light. The people who once doubted you will begin to see transformation they can't explain. Some will question it, others will be drawn to it. But those with eyes to see will recognize what it truly is, the evidence of divine favor. They'll feel peace around you without understanding why. They'll feel convicted, yet comforted, because your energy now carries the fragrance of heaven, calm, healing, and undeniable truth. And yet, even as your influence grows, your heart remains grounded in gratitude. You remember where you came from, the silence, the wilderness, the prayers that felt unanswered. You know that your strength was forged in hidden places. You no longer need validation because you walk with revelation. You no longer need to be understood because you are sustained by divine knowing. At this level, spiritual authority begins to flow through you naturally. Your words pierce through confusion. Your presence dismantles darkness. When you speak, hearts soften, minds open, and energy shifts. You are not doing this alone. Heaven moves with you. Angels stand at your side, guiding and guarding every step. You feel them more now, not as distant beings, but as collaborators in your sacred work. Sometimes the divine presence comes so close that you can feel it, like warmth in the air, like light that breathes. In those moments, tears may fall without sadness, laughter may arise without reason. That is the Spirit of God confirming your alignment. The presence that once felt external now dwells within. You've become the temple. The veil between heaven and earth grows thinner in your life because you live in awareness, not separation. And yet this awareness brings with it new responsibility. The light you carry must be guarded, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Not everyone can handle your frequency. Some will misunderstand it, others will try to drain it, but you'll learn discernment, when to give, when to rest, when to withdraw and commune in silence again. Even Jesus retreated to pray, not out of weakness, but to recharge in divine intimacy. The return of power is not loud, it's luminous. It's the quiet confidence of one who walks with God. It's the peace that unsettles darkness. It's the gentleness that disarms anger. You become a living paradox, soft but strong, humble yet powerful, silent but unstoppable. Now, the patterns of your life begin to make perfect sense. You see how every heartbreak trained your compassion, how every delay protected your destiny, how every rejection redirected you toward your true path. You realize that divine power was never something you had to earn. It was something you had to remember. When you walk now, you walk as one who knows. You look back on the child who watched the clouds and felt unseen, and you smile, because you understand now that even then heaven was whispering your name. You remember the adolescent who felt isolated, misunderstood, and restless, and you bless them, because that pain was the soil from which your purpose grew. You see the adult who stumbled, who doubted, who cried out to God for meaning, and you thank them because they never stopped seeking. And now here you stand, not as the same person, but as a vessel reborn through revelation. The divine plan has unfolded exactly as it was meant to. The guidance, the protection, the intuition, the synchronicities. They were never random. They were road signs leading you to this moment, the moment when heaven and earth meet inside you. The chosen ones are rising now, not to conquer but to heal, not to separate but to awaken. You are one of them. You are not here by chance. Every cell in your being carries divine intelligence. Every breath is a prayer. Every step is sacred. When you move, light moves. When you speak, truth echoes. When you rest, peace expands. You are the bridge between realms, a reminder that the divine is not somewhere distant, but alive in every heartbeat, every sunrise, every act of love. The journey doesn't end here, it evolves. You will continue to grow, to be tested, to expand. But now you move with clarity. no longer running from darkness, but illuminating it, no longer asking why me, but declaring use me. And as you continue, you'll find that miracles no longer surprise you, they follow you. Blessings no longer chase you, they walk beside you, because you have become one with the flow of divine purpose. You are the chosen one, not because you were better, but because you were willing, because when others turned away from the call, you said yes, and heaven remembers every yes. You are the light that cannot be hidden, the voice that cannot be silenced, the living testimony that God still works through those who surrender. And now you are free, not from life, but into it. You live awake, you live aligned, you live anointed. The world will change simply because you walk upon it. And the heavens will rejoice because you finally remember who you are.